Marcus Rashford hits back at critics, fans and journalists over questioning his commitment to Manchester United. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yesterday's going to centre around this man right here, Marcus Rashford, who yesterday dropped a teaser for an interview that he gave in which he basically questioned people that were questioning his commitment to Manchester United. In an interview, he basically said that people shouldn't question him. He's 100% committed to Manchester United, and that things that have been talked about in the media in regards to stories about him have been, for the most part, exaggerated. We're going to be talking about this Marcus Rashford stuff. We're going to be talking about a bit about his interview, a bit about Rashford over the course of the past 18 months or so, his on the pitch and off the pitch antics, and where Rashford and Man United go from here, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to this story down below. Would love to hear from you all on that one. But without further ado, let's get on with this Marcus Rashford story. First and foremost, as I say with all rival kind of videos, I am a Liverpool fan, so I'll try and tackle this with as much neutrality and fairness, evenness, openness as possible. I would like to say first and foremost, I've never really rated Marcus Rashford as a world-class player. I thought he's always been a very good player. But as a world-class player, I've found him to be a bit of a purple patch merchant, in all honesty. I think when he's really good, he is on fire, and when he's poor, he is very poor. And I think for the most part this season, we have seen a very poor Marcus Rashford side, and that's where I think this whole kind of deal stems from. I feel like his inconsistent performances really have helped the media fuel this fire, and I think they are a major cause of why people are criticizing him heavily, why the stories are coming out about him, you know, being in nightclubs and doing other things off the pitch that are kind of adding more fuel to the fire for certain fans who are questioning if his off-field antics are obviously influencing his poor performances. And obviously I don't think the media's helped with that, and that's why I feel like his response to that, in questioning the media's judgment in these situations and the way that the media writes things, and the way that obviously in his mind certain facts are being told but the rest are exaggerated lies. I do feel a little bit sorry for him in that aspect. I do feel a little bit sorry for him in terms of I feel some things are getting put out there that are not true. Some things are greatly exaggerated. Some things are not as bad as what the media are making them out to be. And that's why I do feel sorry for him in that aspect. I don't think he's helping himself with some of the choices that he's making. We'll obviously never know the complete ins and outs of the story a few weeks ago in regards to him being sick for training, whereas the night before he was in a nightclub in Belfast. We'll never know the full ins and outs, but it doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it for a good look when that is happening, and especially given that Man United have been poor for the majority of this season, and Rashford's performances especially have been highlighted. It's not great, but it comes with the territory of being Manchester United's poster boy. When you're given a big money contract like he was last season for his performances and for the way that he was playing, that is not only taking on extra money, extra exposure, a bigger role in the squad if he didn't already have a big enough role already. That is taking on the responsibility of being the main representative of Manchester United, carrying yourself to being the leader, the role model, everything about everything that should be good about a leader, a captain, a skipper, general, whatever kind of role you want to call it. That is obviously taking on that role, and when obviously if it falls down at the top, it's going to filter through down through that squad. And you know, I'm not saying footballers shouldn't have lives. I'm a big advocate of it, and I feel like, you know, we can't treat them as robots. They need to have their social life. They need to have their time away from football to recharge, reset, and everything. But at the same time, people are not going to be as forgiving as I am, and people are not going to be as understanding as what I am and what I hope to be in that aspect. People are going to be critical of that, and that's what people have been. And don't get me wrong, if it was a player from Liverpool that was playing poor and he was going out to nightclubs all the time, I feel like we'd have a major problem on our hands. But you don't really get that with Liverpool a lot. You get it with a few other clubs. But again, one of the major reasons why other clubs it's more swept underneath the carpet is because A, Manchester United is an absolute global phenomenon. So again, when you are that main representative of Manchester United, when you have the money that Rashford has, when you have the exposure that Rashford has, and maybe even the poor PR, I guess, of Marcus Rashford, because it seems like he's constantly being talked about day in, day out, you're going to be heavily scrutinised. You're going to be heavily looked at as being, well, you're meant to be the leader of this team. You're meant to be the main guy. You're meant to also be the homegrown talent. You're meant to be the one that's been bathed in Manchester, bathed in the culture of Manchester and Manchester United. You're meant to know what it's all about. In contrast to certain players that have come in from other clubs, whether it be from France, from Germany, from Portugal, from Spain, wherever the case may be, you're meant to be the guy that is engulfed in that culture. You're meant to be the leader. You're meant to be the main man. You're held to a higher standard than what people that are brought in from. Although Man United is a global phenomenon, you are obviously the guy that was brought up in Manchester. You're the guy that in your own interview seemingly made made a hint to the fact that you could have gone elsewhere as a young kid. As a young kid, because obviously you were brought through the academy and everything, you made the seemingly hint that, you know, your parents, yourself could have made a lot more money by doing something else, maybe going somewhere else. You're meant to be the main guy for that. You're meant to be the main guy for knowing what Manchester United is all about. Having grown up with Manchester United, having grown up seeing United win multiple trophies down the years, and obviously be growing up during Man United's golden era of the best Premier League era, or whatever the case may be, under Sir Alex Ferguson. You're meant to know what it's all about, because when you are that global phenomenon, you're going to be heavily looked at and heavily scrutinised. In contrast to, of course, someone from a lesser club, a Crystal Palace, say, with all due respect, a Southampton, whatever the case may be. If a player's going out there and getting drunk on certain nights, yeah, it probably would make the headlines in locally. It will probably make the headlines in certain other cases as well if it's big enough. But you're Manchester United. You're a Manchester United player, so of course it's going to get into the headlines and mainstream headlines that one be talked about for days on end, until obviously people forget about that and they move on to something else, and they only revisit this story if something else similar was to break, whether it be to you or to someone else. So when you're obviously a representative of Manchester United, you're obviously going to get that, because United are a global phenomenon. They have a global fan base, a global reach across the entirety of the globe. That's what global means. But you are going to get that in contrast to someone of a, with all due respect, lesser club. That's just the way that it works. Also, what doesn't help you is the fact that you're not winning things as often as what you should be, or what you have been doing. Maybe not necessarily what you should be, but what you have been doing in the past. The reason why a Jack Grealish can go out and get absolutely hammered every night and still turn up for training and be fine is because City are winning trophies. The reason why Kyle Walker can get speeding tickets and whatever else he's doing, and, you know, things about his personal life, which is strange and weird, is because City are winning trophies. And although we talk about it, and although we do focus on them stories and we go, oh, look how bad this is, I feel like this gets swept under the carpet a lot more than what a thing like this is, because City are winning trophies, City are doing well. There's also an ingrained level of discipline that Pep Guardiola has instilled in that club for however many years he's been there now. At Manchester United over the course of the past decade, no matter what manager's taken charge, no matter what manager's taken over, the level of discipline hasn't always been there, or has always been loosely implemented within that club. And, you know, that's not necessarily on Rashford, not necessarily on him, but, you know, it's up to the manager and up to the club to obviously instill mainly that discipline. And I would say that with that not being there, that's why you can probably brush things like Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish, or any other club that's winning trophies somewhat under the carpet a little bit. And that's why you can mainly focus on a guy like Rashford, because not only is he playing for one of the biggest known football clubs in the world, but there isn't really a level of discipline there to be like, well, he's been punished enough for it, let's move on. It doesn't necessarily matter because the team are playing amazing right now, so he can just fade into the background a little bit. The players can play their natural game, they can forget all about what's happening off the pitch, and they can continue to win games and win trophies or whatever they like, and Rashford will take his punishment and will be slowly bled back into the team. That's not necessarily happened. He may have sat out for a game here and there, but this guy is constantly being thrown into the limelight. This guy is constantly being thrown onto the pitch, even though his performances may not warrant a start, may not warrant minutes on the pitch, but he's still getting there. He's been so inconsistent this season in contrast to last, and obviously, again, it's about his big money contract, again, as a big layer to this story. Last season, he was playing at a world-class level for a large part of last season. Again, I will say I never found him to be a world-class player, but I've always found him to have world-class moments. But they were never consistent enough to transpire to be world-class as a player, constantly, consistently, and as a whole. Last season, he warranted that big money contract, in my opinion. He was playing great. He was playing amazing. And obviously, with his contract running down, United were worried that they were going to lose him. If he was going to play that well, and if obviously that was going to be the kickstart to his consistency levels, then obviously it was a gamble worth taking. But this season, he hasn't quite lived up to those expectations. He's been, again, hit and miss. He's been misfiring. He's been poor. He's been inconsistent. His mind seems elsewhere. His commitment on the pitch, and again, he says not to test his commitment on the pitch, but you can see his work rate on the pitch has somewhat declined. You can see the way he's just wandering around and not even trying to press properly. There's the clip of him against Luton where Ross Barkley just wanders around him. Like, what are we seeing here from this guy? This is a guy that's in a complete polar opposite to what we have seen from him when he first burst onto the scene and last season. It's a complete contrast to this guy, and like, as a rival fan, look, I'm happy with anything that's a decline for Manchester United or any one of their players, but at the same time I have to be neutral, I have to be open, and I have to be honest about it. It's poor from him. It's very poor from him. It's a poor lack of judgment as well from him. I don't understand what his mindset is. I don't understand where he is mentally with this. And of course we have to be careful, you know, mental health and all of that stuff. We have to be careful with that stuff. We don't exactly know what he's going through. I think there is maybe other things that are going on behind the scenes with him, because there's no way you go from what he was doing last season to the complete, or what he was doing when he first burst onto the scene, to the complete contrast that we are seeing now. I think part of it is Manchester United. I think part of it is the manager Erik ten Hag and things that are working out on the pitch, as well as a little bit maybe off the pitch in terms of discipline and obviously things changing at Manchester United and things. But for the most part, I don't understand from Rashford himself why he puts himself in this spot. Like I say, I'm all for footballers having their own personal space and their own social life and everything else like that. But for certain people, there is a line, and when your performances aren't warranting it, you know, because if United were playing good and Rashford was playing good, he could go out till 2 o'clock in the morning. As long as he was playing well at 12 o'clock the next day or whatever, things would be fine. Things would be perfect. But they aren't perfect right now for United, and that's the big worry. So it leaves two big questions to cap off this kind of interview. Number one, should this interview have taken place in the first place? In my opinion, not necessarily. I think Rashford should have just shook off the criticism. I don't think he needed to address the criticism. I understand him wanting to address the media in terms of maybe making up lies and maybe exaggerating and stretching the truth. I 100% get that. But did it really need an interview? Was there maybe a lesser platform that could have done that? Maybe a Twitter video. Well, sorry, it's not Twitter anymore, is it? It's X. Ugh, stupid. It still feels wrong to say. Maybe an X video or an X tweet, just basically to say, stop spreading lies, stop exaggerating the truth, whatever. Simple, done and dusted. It probably wouldn't have blown up to this extent like it has done with this particular interview. I just feel like that may have been shorter, snappier, and also may have got more to the point in that aspect. Secondly, what do you do with Marcus Rashford now? As Manchester United fans, what do you do with Marcus Rashford? Do you keep him? Do you sell him, or do you loan him? If this was just about his performances alone, that could be the question. That could definitely be the question. But the fact of the matter is like, every time he plays poorly, his name gets brought in so much. And I understand why. For the reasons that I've given already in this video about how he's the local boy, about how he's ingrained in the club, about how his big money contract is constantly questioned, because I do feel sorry for him in certain aspects, because sometimes the media does make him a scapegoat, and sometimes fans do make him a scapegoat. Media makes him a scapegoat by pinpointing his portfolio of houses and things that he's bought, and obviously his life of luxury and his and his incredible and amazing wealth. That's what the media does, and it's horrible because at the end of the day, yeah, maybe some of these players are overpaid and everything, but at the end of the day, if they're talented and have quality enough to obviously make that money and to obviously rinse that money out of a club, so all for it. I'm all for it. So be it. Do whatever the hell you like with that money. My issue is and I'm looking at it from the outside looking in, of course, is every time United play poorly, this guy is always brought into question. There are others as well. You can pinpoint Harry Maguire. You can pinpoint some others. But this is a guy that is seen as having the quality and potential to be world class in certain people's eyes. Not for me, but every time United go for a poor spell, this is the guy that everyone looks to. And he never necessarily rises to the occasion. He did when he first burst onto the scene, when not many people had that much high expectation of him. He then carried on for a couple more years, and then suddenly his performances started to decline. They picked up again last season, and then they declined again over the course of this season. I just wonder what is the next step for him, because it just seems that this is a bit of a crossroads now for Manchester United. Maybe there is something to the effect of getting rid of him, selling him on, moving him on, because I don't think this is doing him any good mentally. I don't think this is doing him any sort of service to obviously be the guy to carry the local boy tag of being a Manchester United player, as well as doing all of the stuff off the pitch. Because remember, when he was doing all of that stuff, battling the government during COVID and doing the free school meals initiative and all of that good stuff, it was incredible to see. And everybody could get on board with what he was doing. But everybody was waiting. Everybody was waiting for his performances on the pitch to drop, and then they could use it against him. And that's exactly what happened. His performances dropped and people were questioning, oh, well, maybe his off-the-pitch antics are affecting him on the pitch. Maybe he should stick to football rather than get involved in politics. I do worry that maybe the overexposure may have got to him. I also think injuries have gotten to him as well. I also think that he was always playing through an injury at certain times, and that's why, maybe he did seem a little bit burnt out at certain times during his United career so far. But again, it's mainly on him, and it's mainly on him. It's mainly what affects him. Certain players can shake it off and can just carry on as they were and not be drawn into the criticism and not be drawn into the media hype and the media stuff. I don't think Rashford can, and that's where I do worry about Marcus Rashford as to whether or not his United career may take a hit because of this kind of stuff. Maybe again I'm reading too much into it from the outside looking in, but as a United player, as a local boy, and as a big part of Man United's wage structure and everything else in terms of how much money he's getting, you've got to take it with the territory. You've got to take that criticism on the chin with the territory. Do what you want to do, and mainly try not to let it affect your performances on the pitch, because then you can definitely do whatever you want to do. If you're letting it affect your performance on the pitch, people are going to question your outside motives and your outside antics. It's not exactly a great place to be in, but I just wonder whether or not that kind of thing in his personal life and everything may be called into question later on this summer. Especially because there's so much up in the air about Manchester United that we don't know right now. I just wonder whether or not Rashford will have to be a sort of sacrifice to obviously instill discipline and instill a new culture and a new era at Manchester United going forward. Anyway, these are the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Marcus Rashford situation? Should he be kept, sold, or loaned out for at least a season or two? Do you think that he was right to give the interview? What did you make of the interview overall? There's so much kind of layers and stuff to this story that I want to get your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings on down below in the comment section. Let me know from you guys, please. It will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you and speak to you all again very soon.